Testing, check, check, 1, 2, 3. Alright, welcome to the Ninja Robot Studio LLC stream, where I play video games and VR experiences, and I talk through them from a UX designer's perspective. Game development has a heavy indirect influence on XR development, so it makes sense that we would study game design to give us a greater understanding of how to design quality immersive experiences. And the plan is to have you guys in chat participate, and that way we can learn together. And there are a lot of classes out there on UX design, and UX process is the foundational stuff, and more classes are coming out around designing for XR. Think of this not so much as that foundational stuff, but think of it kind of more as an unofficial, less academic and less expensive university labs for UX for XR. And we're going to be using critical thinking in our design analysis. And my goal is to help you to gain experience in this process as you participate in the chat. And if you check out the widgets on my Twitch page under the About section, you'll see a section called Rose, Thorn, Bud. And we'll be using this method each session to think through the games I play. And it's experimental, and I'll be learning and iterating as I go, and as you guys give me feedback on how these sessions go. And let me give for those that are going to be watching this later on demand, let me show you what I'm talking about on my Twitch stream. Let me turn on my browser. So if you look at the About section on my Twitch page, you'll see Rose, Thorn, Bud. This is the method that we're using. It's a quick and simple method that takes a lot less time. So professionally, if I were going to be assessing an experience, I'd be doing a heuristic evaluation. That's a more expert review based on certain criteria, a long list of criteria, and to be going in and playing, going through the game very, very rigorously, in depth, going through the different scenarios and use cases or whatever, depending on the application of the game, and then going through and scoring various things on how well they meet that criteria. But this is a much quicker method of just, it captures the big things, like what went well, what didn't go well, what opportunities do you see for making it better. It's a not as in-depth, robust, but it does, if you're doing quick analysis to just quickly do a review of something, and it could be a game, it could be an application, it could be your process for how your team works together. This Rose, Thorn, Bud method is great for just doing like retrospectives, all kinds of things like that, for a quick run of how things are going. And then you can watch all of these videos on demand later on YouTube. I'm going to start listing out which games I've played here so that you can have quick access to them, or you can watch them on YouTube. So also I have a recommended reading list for you. Of course, my website, UX for XR Toolkit, is the UX for XR toolkit is what I write. It has content, basic content about the best practices for specifically around XR. So again, it's not teaching you foundation UX principles, UX design. It's teaching you them in regards to XR. So there are many great resources out there that can teach you foundational UX. This is specifically for XR. And it covers, you can learn the basics of transitioning if you're an existing UX designer, or you're on a team that's developing for XR experiences. This is a good way to get in and learn the foundational UX best practices for this space. You can learn how to transition from a designer standpoint, and I'm working on a pattern library so that you can see how other people have solved the problems, looking at games and assessing, like, for example, teleportation. How can we teleport without breaking immersion? Because that's one of the big complaints that people have about that. What's a way of teleporting easily? And so I'm grabbing patterns to see how other people have done that. And this is what I do a lot in actual work with people, is I will grab patterns of existing things and talk about it. Like, this is how it works, this is what I like about it, this is what I don't like about it. And then I'll go through and study the micro interactions on that thing and share it with my team to communicate, well, this is how I want it to behave. So I'm creating this pattern library for people so that they don't have to do that work. You don't have to go out and do all of that work to play all of these games and grab all of these patterns, because that's a major wish list that a lot of UX designers have, is, can our team have a pattern library that we can just grab from and say, here, this is an example of it, but change it this way so that for our game. And this is a major thing on a wish list, but it almost never happens because there's never time. Then there's always something more important to pay for on the budget than taking the time to create a pattern library. So that's one of the things that I've started doing for XR specifically, so that you don't have to do that. You can just access this pattern library and share these patterns with your teams so that you don't have to do all that hard work. And it's already available to you. And you can also learn about the nuances of the UX process and how it adapts for VR. It's the same foundational principles. You're just going to have to, it's just a different platform, so there are different nuances in how you would do usability testing, things you need to think about for those sorts of things. So this is where I talk about that. And so you can check that out on my website. And there is also, under the Learn More, it is very recommended that you read The Gamer's Brain by Celia Hodent. It is talks about the neuroscience of gaming and all of the UX principles. Is a very good book around UX design for gaming specifically. She has a lot of experience in gaming UX, and this is kind of our unofficial textbook for this stream, and I'll be going through that a little bit more later. But you can also check out the VR book by Jason Gerald. If you, this one is a lot thicker, of course. It's more academic, but it also goes into more of the developer side of things and the technology side of things, like hardware, experimental hardware, prototyping hardware, and there is some overlap with the Gamer's Brain. But if you want to get into the more technical side of things, I highly recommend the VR book, and it is specifically around VR, where the Gamer's Brain is around games in general. But if you are on a tight budget and you can only buy one book, I would say get the Gamer's Brain, because that's going to be a wider reaching resource for you that easily applies to VR. And so you can also watch all of these videos later on demand on my YouTube channel. Let me see if my bot works and the links work. There it is in chat. ninjarobotstudio.com if you want a quick link to the YouTube channel where you can watch these are overview high-level videos on best practices for XR. They let you dive a little deeper than the articles that I've written, and then all of my streams will be available on demand later for you to watch as well. And then if you want to, there are ways to support me because games cost money and we need a steady way of supporting this stream. So if you want the stream to continue, there are ways to support, and you want to contribute, of course. There are ways to support if you are tight on a budget. You can easy, cheap thing to do, free thing to do is to like, subscribe, follow YouTube, share, follow the Twitch, share the resources and links with people, and that's your free way of supporting. And then, but if you do have funds and you want to support that way, I have merch, and I have ordered some of this stuff myself to check it out, to sample it. I have the hoodie on. I don't know if you can see it. There's the logo. I have resized it a little bit to make it slightly smaller. But it came out really well, and I also have the t-shirt, which also came out really well. It's a lightweight cotton t-shirt. It's not a thick cotton, it's a lightweight cotton, so it feels really nice. It's soft, and the logo came out really nice on it. I haven't tested out the long sleeve t-shirt, but it's the same design on all the t-shirts and the hoodie, and I have a little sticker there. I have not ordered a test order of the sticker, so if you order these things and you see any issues with them, let me know, and I will try to resolve those issues. And then you can also support me by subscribing or becoming a patron on Patreon. I have various levels here of membership that give you, like, there's a tier that gives you early access to the UX Best Practices videos, and there's a tier that gives you full access to the full pattern library. There are free patterns in there, but then there are also patterns that are not free full access because they take a lot more effort to study and get the details of those because, for example, they're cross-platform or whatever. So there is a full library that has more detail, and patterns are being added regularly as well. So let's talk about questions that have come up. I did have a question that was sent in. Will you only be doing PC and VR, or will you also use other platforms? So right now, I'm doing PC and VR. I think we're doing a VR game next week. But I do have a PlayStation, and I do want to use the PlayStation. I just have to figure out the technical issues around getting it to reliably stream through here, stay connected and stream through here. There's some reliability issues going on that I need to figure out. If you have tips on how to stream PlayStation, I'm all ears. You can send comments and let me know. Contact me on LinkedIn or whatever, add a comment, and I will look into that and appreciate it. But also in the future, I do want to, once I have space, I don't have the space right now, but once I have the space, I would like to do physical games, like non-digital games, because there are a lot of things that can also learn from that, specifically in relation to XR. there are a lot of things that are being converted from physical games into XR. For example, chess. You saw that in lots of visionary demos of people playing chess, people playing D&D, and all kinds of board games, so that you can play with your friends remotely instead of trying to get everyone together in one place. This is really hard to do nowadays. So it is a very relevant thing to study, are the physical games, the physical tabletop games, board games, things like that. So once I have the space, I would like to do that as well. Right now I don't, so I can't, but that is something I'm wanting to do in the future. And I do have a little follow-up from last week when we were playing Shadowverse. I had mentioned that there were too many animations going on, and it was kind of a lot to take in during the card battles. And I remember I had commented that it was nice that you were able to set up the settings as you go, because it was kind of in context as you were going, instead of having you set everything up front and then not understand why you would want to set it up, and then or make you wait until later when you've already been annoyed by some setting. That this is doing it slowly as you go. However, one thing I did notice is that there was a setting, I noticed it later, that there was a setting to change the animations for the cards, but it was set before you had ever done a battle. So you didn't even know context of like what's going on. If you'd never played a card game to know what battle animations are or what they're like, you may not know whether or not they're annoying. So having those settings before you've even had the battle or started the battle, it's kind of a little bit potentially out of context. So then you might want to change the placement of where you put that option to change the setting to where it's out of after you've done the first battle. So that was a little bit more of the buds of opportunities for change for making it a little better. And so I want to quickly go through the pillars of gaming again. I do this at the beginning of every stream, so that we can have them fresh on our memories for the game that we're going to play. And these are pillars taken from The Gamer's Brain by Celia Hodent. And yet again, I highly recommend this book for you if you have the funds to get the book. I don't remember how much it costs. So starting with usability, she's got it broken up. So you've got your normal usability pillars that you would expect if you're in the UX community. You would expect these are the pillars of usability, like you would call them Nielsen-Norman heuristics for your applications, your software, your websites, and so forth. But with gaming, it's different in that your motivations are different. You're trying to complete tasks with your normal software and so forth. With games, you're also wanting to be entertained in some way. So then there's a separate set of principles and pillars for making it fun and engageable. And so she calls them engageability, pillars of engageability. So going through those, there are 7 pillars that she lists for usability, and these are derived from the standard heuristics that you would find from Nielsen-Norman, but they are modified to make sense for games. Or she speaks about them in the book in ways that game developers and team members will understand, because let's face it, UX designers and UX researchers like to use a lot of big words that nobody else understands. So this is changing it to normal, everyday language, or language that your team speaks to help them understand better. So the main pillars of usability that she lists are signs and feedback, clarity, form follows function, consistency, minimum workload, error prevention and recovery, and flexibility. And I'll talk through those very quickly. So starting with signs and feedback, that is all of those visual and audio and haptic cues that are informing you what's going on in the game. So there are things like the quest signs above NPCs' heads, their wayfinding signs to tell you where to go, signs that tell you whether or not you can interact with something, things like that, signs. And then feedback is giving you a reaction to what you've done, letting you know that you've successfully completed an action. That can be through a combination of sound and visual feedback and haptic feedback and so forth to let you know, hey, you've done this right, or no, you haven't done this right, or you can't do this yet because you haven't done this other thing. Those are signs and feedback. And that help guide the players through that game, that experience. And then clarity is around how clear are those signs and feedback, how clear is the UI, and that's they should be perceptible and clear to avoid any confusion. And so clarity is not just visual clarity, it's also clarity of understanding. Typography, color contrast, your font usage, your design of your UIs, all of those things work together to enable clarity or hinder clarity. So your goal is to have your interfaces be perceptible but not intrusive. You don't want them to get in the way of what you're trying to do with the game. And they should also enable you to quickly prioritize information based on what's relevant at the time. And you do that through color and hierarchy, typography, things like that. What's currently relevant, what's not. It's in a battle scene, it might not be as important for you to be able to access your inventory unless, of course, that's part of something that you're having to do during that battle. There should hopefully be some kind of hotbar that you can quickly access the things that you would potentially need in battle instead of opening up your inventory and digging through it in the middle of a battle. Things like that. Thanks for following, Plaid Hiker. I appreciate it. Where are you from? Do you work in gaming? And then form follows function is that the form of an item, a character icon, so forth, those things should convey their function. So thinking about it from a normal design standpoint, affordances, the design should tell you what you can do with it. For example, in real life, a chair affords sitting. By the design, you know that you can sit in a chair. A doorknob affords turning. By looking at it, you know that you can turn it. Where problems come in are like what is now called the Norman door, because he talks about it in Design of Everyday Things. Don Norman, the book Design of Everyday Things, is that there's a door out there that you either push or pull it, and you often have a sign on there saying whether or not you have to push or pull it because the form is not immediately conveying the function. It's not clear. So they've designed this interesting looking door. I don't know why it's designed this way, but it's obviously not clear whether or not you pull or push. So they have to put a sign there to tell you what to do. What gets extra confusing is when you have a door that has a sign on it that says pull, but then it's for a security feature or something that the building's placed on the door. You have to push a red button next to it. It's for it to open, and then pull the door open. If you're in a hurry sometimes and you're not used to it, you read the push on the button because it has a big red push sign on it. So you're pushing the button and then you're subconsciously pushing the door because you read push instead of switching to read pull. So it takes a moment to translate push versus pull, and that's always fun and frustrating. So thinking about things like that, simple design things that could make things easier for people, and it's not as big of a deal on a door, but if you're in the middle of the game and you get those mixed signals going on in your brain, that can end up in you dying or failing a task because of time constraints or so forth, that could become very frustrating very quickly. So that is clarity and form following function. It should intuitively inform you how to interact with it. And consistency is around the consistency of your elements, your menu items, your character icons and so forth, your items. If you pay really close attention to games, you'll see that, like, for example, an NPC consistently has a different color nameplate above its head than player characters versus enemies. There's a consistent pattern there. And so it's talking about consistency here to make it clear what's what. Of course, depending on the game, sometimes they may not want you to know whether something's an enemy or a friend. But you want those things to convey their function consistently. So interfaces, menu navigation, the world rules, the overall conventions should be consistent. And it should follow also similar consistencies in the player's expectations. For example, regional controls, and I've mentioned this before, is like, for example, on the Sony, and I only know this because I'm a geek and I ordered a Vita for a Japanese Vita instead of the American release Vita. That's the only reason I know that. For Japan and for America, these two buttons switch function. So in Japan, circle is what you use to select, whereas in America, the X is what you use to select. And those are switched for that region. So you want to follow regional conventions for things, because I'm constantly, when I go to play a Japanese game, constantly forgetting and pushing the wrong thing, and that can become very frustrating very quickly if you're not following those regional conventions. And the gaming mental models as well. So people expect certain games to behave certain ways. You want to study the other games, and that's also what we're kind of doing here, studying the other games to see what kind of mental models are being established across the same kind of games, because you want to follow those mental models where it makes sense so that you're not adding confusion. And then workload is, for example, your cognitive load and your physical load. Cognitive load is your attention, your memory, like I was talking about earlier. When you're in a hurry, push the button, pull the door. That shouldn't be too much cognitive load, but if you're in a hurry, it is. So think about the context of the game. How much are they having to think about this thing? If it's like a boss mechanic of the game, then yeah, sure. If that's the goal, is that they have to figure this thing out quickly, then if that's the goal of the game, then sure. But if it's not a part of the actual game mechanic, you don't want to put that load on them. You don't want the interface to add on to that cognitive load that's already there for the mechanic. And the physical load is number of clicks or number of actions, steps taken to complete a thing. For example, your interactions should not be cumbersome or overly complicated unless it's part of the game mechanic. The part of the challenge. It shouldn't be just because it shouldn't take 10 clicks to get to a menu option to open your inventory, for example. That should be a very simple, quick thing. Thinking about how long and how cumbersome it is to do something. They should be able to focus on the game mechanics and the features and less on that interface and the controls. And then error prevention and recovery is you're anticipating what they could do, what they could do wrong, that is not part of the game, What could they do wrong as far as interactions, and then prevent them from doing that, as long as it's, not part of the core game mechanic experience. Allow them, for example, if they start to leave the game but they haven't saved and it's something that you have to manually save, you could pop up a thing saying, hey, you're about to lose your data, do you want to save? And let them recover from that. Let them save at that point. Don't make them have to cancel and then go dig for the save button. Just have the option for the save button there, because that goes back to that whole workload. Just let them save and exit, because that's what they want to do. And then flexibility is around how can you customize the experience for yourself. For example, do you need to change your key bindings to change what keys do what, because you're used to playing a certain way? You should be able to have flexibility to do that. It's a big deal about accessibility. Is can they connect any accessible game pads or anything to allow people with certain motor function impairments to also play your game? Can they change the language? Can they change the voiceover language? Can they change the font size in case they have a visual impairment? Things like that. You should add as much as possible those elements of flexibility in there to the game. And audio levels, things like that. Difficulty levels. Some people just want to enjoy a game for the story, while other people want to, it's like do or die. I want it to be as hard as possible. You should give the freedom, give that flexibility if you can. And then on the engageability side of things, it's around motivation, emotion, and game flow. Those are the things that affect the engageability of the game. So the motivation is that what is motivating the player to continue playing this game. They need to feel a sense of competence in the game, and a sense of control or autonomy, and some kind of relatedness in there. What is their sense of purpose, their value, the meaning, the impact of for anything that they need to do or have to learn in the game? What is their motivation of doing this? Why do they want to do this? And then offer meaningful rewards for doing those things. And thinking about what would motivate them as far as rewards go. For example, if they're new in the game and they're low level and they can't unlock crafting until level 10, don't give them crafting rewards as a reward for level 1 through 8 at least. Probably not until they get to level 10 and they unlock a crafting class, because otherwise it's not motivational unless you're just giving them another way of earning money. Then make it clear you can go sell these things here, or just give them money. That's a better reward, because when you're low level it's harder to make money generally. So give them money, give them gear, give them things that are going to be more meaningful to them. Potions of healing and so forth. Those things are more meaningful at lower levels than they are at higher levels. Gear's always meaningful, but potions of healing and so forth, money is more motivation at the lower levels than crafting materials and so forth, things they can't even use yet. And emotion is like the feel of the game. Like, for example, the music that we're listening to now it's a chill music. It's setting a certain mood for the game. It's not something I would hate getting stuck in my head and lose sleep over if it's stuck in my head, because it won't stop. That happens a lot. That this game isn't doing that yet. That I'm actually doing a blind run of this game. I've never played it, so we'll see. But so that's about your control, your camera, your character. Those are the 3 C's that she's talking about here: control, camera, and character. Your presence, your physical reality, how is all of that? What is the game doing to create emotion? What's it doing to create surprise, delight, things like that, discovery? Those are emotion. And then game flow is the level of the challenge, the difficulty curve of how difficult is it to start playing, learn how to play, continue playing. What's the pressure? What's the pacing? I don't feel really pressured right now with the current game. The music, I'm not, it's like I said, it's chill. I don't feel a whole heavy lot of pressure right now to do something in a certain amount of time. But there are certain times, like in battles and so forth, where the music will suddenly change, the lighting will change, to add on pressure to pacing. And learning curve, things like that are your game flow. And these are things that we're going to try to be thinking about, and if you're in chat, and you feel free to, as I play the game, that's the hope, that you chime in and you talk about things and ask questions as I play, so that we can learn together. That's the whole goal of this, is so that you can learn with me. Because my primary, so far, my experience has been in serious games, which is the more training for consequence, like safety. It's like, if you don't do this way, there will be a consequence. That is, or if you react this way to this situation, there will be a safety consequence to that. Those are the kinds of games I'm used to playing. I'm not, or designing for. I'm not used to designing for just pure entertainment games. So that's why I'm studying all of these different types of games, because I've learned very quickly in the early stages of my XR design careers that playing games teaches a ton when you study them and you look at them in a critical light. They teach you a ton, patterns, so forth, NPC behaviors. That's one of the whole points of this stream. And we will be doing afterwards a rose, thorn, bud exercise to think through some of those things. So now let's talk about the actual game that we're going to be playing today. And the game that we're playing today is called Card Hunter. It's an RPG game, tabletop game. I'm a fan of tabletop games with dice, and that's what this is. It is, welcome, I'll just read about. Welcome, bold adventurer. Card Hunter is an online collectible card game that blends together card play, deck building, tactical combat, and fantasy role-playing in a way you've never seen before. Grab your cards, minis, your dice, your snacks, and then journey to a new world of adventure on the tabletop of your game master, Gary. It is a single-player campaign. It's not multiplayer. I don't think there's a multiplayer option. I haven't seen one yet. I don't see one in the description anywhere. I haven't read the whole thing, but this seems to be a combination of Dungeons and Dragons and Magic the Gathering and some other tabletop board games, card games, and just like a mesh of these things, and that's very intriguing to me because I love Dungeons and Dragons. But sometimes it can be intimidating for a new player to get into Dungeons and Dragons because, for example, the character sheet and all the things that you have to keep track of, all the different kinds of dice you need to roll and everything, it can be very difficult and daunting for new players. So playing, I like to see how different people are playing with that, taking the good things from this thing and the good things from this thing, different games, and meshing them together to create something completely new. All right, let's get started on the actual game. All right, welcome, Ninja Robot Studio LLC. Playing Card Hunter together is going to be awesome. I'm assuming this is my game master. And I've got a player's handbook here. Looks very Dungeons and Dragons-y so far. So let's continue. I'm just using my mouse right now. Let's do Green Fang's challenge. My older brother Melvin has been telling me how great it is.
Adventurers.
Your party has survived the Undying Marshes, following the ancient map to the Gold Leaf Blade. And this is one way that people grab attention. It's a very simple UI. This is a common pattern you'll see among NPCs or characters as they talk through a game, is that it'll have an image of the NPC that's talking and then the text here, a very common pattern. And then a good practice that they're doing right here is that it is not auto-progressing the text. It's giving you control over when you proceed, because think about how long this game's been open and I've had it in the background just sitting on this screen. Imagine if there was an auto progress active. I would have missed this entire thing. I wouldn't have seen any of it. And it's possible that the game had already started playing by the time I finished talking through all of the things I've been talking through so far. So, very good practice. People get distracted, people are busy. Real life happens outside of the game. You want to give them control over how they proceed and progress in the game. This is good practice. And I like how they're keeping up this is a nostalgic thing for people who play tabletop games like Dungeons and Dragons, to have your modules and things like that. They've paid attention to that mental model. Like I said, things that the people do like playing about Dungeons and Dragons is here, and it's talking about what level it's for, which is a common thing in Dungeons and Dragons. So it's keeping a lot of those patterns that you're used to here in the game, which is very good. Deep in the Undying Marshes are hidden 3 priceless artifacts: a sword of peerless sharpness, a mace blessed by Saint Temrune herself, and a staff infused with demon fire. But brave indeed would be the adventurers who would invade the Brooding Fens to face the enmity of the Lizardmen, for it is rumored that they are protected by the Viridian dragon, Greenfang himself. And we're gonna get 2 exciting battles, and it's for higher levels. And I don't know what their levels are like in this game. I know in Dungeons & Dragons, I think the max is at 20, so this is not obviously Dungeons & Dragons, but I don't know what the max level is for this one yet. Now, approaching the blood-soaked altar of a Lizardman shrine, they brace for a final assault. And we've got our minis. So we've got a chat and a battle log. I don't know what world is yet, so you can chat and send. Got our dice. I think there's more dice than this for Dungeons & Dragons, but that's what we've got here. Maybe not. I could be imagining it. But this is adding cards to Dungeons & Dragons and normal d6 dice. Cold-eyed lizardmen pour forth to defend their temple, commanded by a skeletal apparition. So it looks like they've got the enemies at the top here, and then this is our party down at the bottom. I can't interact with it yet, that's fine. Now I can, maybe. Play your cards to defeat your enemies. Okay. And this is turn-based, but can I play all? Right-click or press the space bar on cards to see what they do. Okay, so hovering over the card tells you the area of effect, so the area in which you can use it. Oh, and so I have 27 cards in my deck, and discard pile currently has 0 on each, and this is my health, and I don't know what draws is yet. And I don't know why every single one of them has an exclamation point on it right now, but okay, so shield block can only affect, it seems like it can only affect attacks that are coming from the spaces that are highlighted in green right now. This is what I'm perceiving. And you can only use chop within this area of the spaces immediately surrounding this dwarf here. Okay, and that's nice. So you can hover over the characters to see their stats and where they can move. I guess that's either where they can move or where an attack's going to come from. And why is this armor gets played? Oh, it gets played automatically when the owner is attacked. Okay, I was wondering why it was there, so that's just adding stats. Blocks get played automatically when the owner is attacked. Okay, so exclamation mark means new card. Okay, this is where they can heal. Okay, so these are pillars. So the pillars are blocking your line of sight. Okay, that's why these lines aren't working. It's because it's blocked by line of sight. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Same for heals. Inspiration. Stand firm, for well you know that hardship and danger are the price of glory. Alexander the Great. That target character draws a card. Okay, so that's giving a benefit to somebody. Sounds about right. And then run. Sometimes running's the best option, sometimes it's the only option. This is an arcane magic. And this is giving you 4 damage, and there's a range of 6. 6 what? Choose up to 3 different targets for this attack. Each target must be within 3 squares of another. So let's see if I can just okay, so I have to move where I want to move before I can do that. But I can't drag him, so I have to use a card to walk. And I have to I'm just going to move straight ahead. Choose up to 3 different targets for this attack. Each target must be within 3 squares of another. Hard to block. Ouch, ouch, ouch.
Whoa!
Blocks in your hand defend you automatically if you roll high enough. Block any, draw a card. Armor may lessen the blow, but only a shield stops it from landing. So it automatically rolled for me. I rolled a 2.
Ah!
Oops. Do I draw a card? When you hover over a card, the board shows all the squares you can reach with that card. And it's highlighting which mini you're looking at right now. Okay, so I am nothing's in range right now. Just want to pass. Did she hit anyone? Yeah. So choose up to 3 different targets for this attack. Each target must be within 3 squares of each other. What sorcery is this? The painful kind. Burst 2, burning 2, duration 1. I don't know what duration means yet. Attack to target. At the start of each round, target takes 2 points of fire damage. Burst affects all players or squares within 2 of the target square. Within 2 of the target square, so would it affect this one? I'm gonna try, and then wait, hold on. Try this one. Yeah, so move so I can see the board. Okay, so it did hit him. Okay, good. Armor. So it's explaining what's going on, which I appreciate. And we rolled a nice high number. I think we had to... Okay, so we have to roll higher than a 3 or higher to get this thing to trigger. If you run out of cards to play, you can pass. After a pass, you can end round to draw new cards. So can I not move anymore? I can't move unless I have a card to move? That's different. I'm going to... Can't use that one. What's their health like? I'm gonna let this guy draw a card. To look at a card I played, open the battle log at the top left and click the card's hyperlinked name. Okay. Okay. Oh, that's an automatic block. Okay. I don't want to get out from behind the person with the shield. So I'm going to use within 3 squares of another. I'm going to use this one. I didn't click on the one I wanted to use it on, but it was the one I wanted to use it on. Teleport. It's impossible to be in 2 places at once, but with the right magic, you can get very close. So a magic user came before the shield. That's brave. Still not within range. That is annoying. Okay. Okay, we'll do this one. And they are going to zap Borgo. But my armor worked. That's nice. So what's my health like? Okay. I'm wondering if you can access other players. I'm not sure. Okay. Don't want to use heal yet. So let's see. What did it say about ending my turn? If you run out of cards to play, you can pass. After a pass, you can end round to draw new cards. Okay, I can't attack anyone right now, and I don't want to put my magic people before my shield person. So I'm going to pass. But they're going to do that. Okay. I never said that I'm good at these games. Okay. Can I draw cards now? Because why wasn't I able to draw cards? I have to run out of cards first. I am going to obliterate chop. Is this an AoE? Choose up to 2 different targets for this attack. So I'm going to play this one. And pick those 2. Alrighty. And now they're gonna do it. But I blocked. Okay, good. Okay. Now he's going to... He's got 8. He's gonna try to one-shot this one. If I can select the right one. Okay. I didn't click on that one. Unless I did earlier. So that's something that's not clear to me. And that would reply to feedback, signs and feedback, and I don't know if it applies to clarity as much as signs and feedback. That one was the one that I had selected to play against. So there should be some kind of clear feedback of which one I've selected when I play against them, because there have been a couple of times now where I've clicked on a card and I was expecting at that point to need to select enemy or friend to apply it to, but it just automatically did it. Fortunately, it happened to be the one I was wanting to attack, so that's making me think that at some point I had selected them, but I don't remember selecting them, and it wasn't clear to me that that's what had happened. So that's one potential place for confusion. This is not always clear to me when I have selected an enemy. So they're out of range now. They're out of range. And that's all. I can't do anything else. I have to move. I don't want to move. Fine. I'll move. And then he'll have to move to get in range of stuff. Staying out of range on purpose. He can't move, which is annoying. Go 2 up so I can get next to him. And do this thing. So what's this one do? Add 3 to block rolls against this attack. So I'm going to do that one. Okay, now it's clearer that I'm selecting something. 6, so that'll one-shot that one. And now I can't move, so I can't do anything, but he can heal. But I need, so here, I selected this card to heal, but then once I've selected it, I can't see the stats, but I guess I can see them down here. Okay, I was expecting to be able to hover over them to see them, because maybe I don't want to look all the way down here. Maybe I want to just hover over to see them, to know which one I want to heal. Okay, so green means they're at full health. So there's a color coding on the health. So yellow means they're lower health, but they're not in danger yet, I guess. And I'm assuming that it will go red. I wasn't paying attention to the enemies. I'm assuming it'll go red. I don't know if there's an orange, but I'm assuming it'll go red once they're at a danger level. And I don't know what the danger level is. But so that's clear, but the thing is that I don't know how low on health are, except yellow's okay, but maybe your definition of okay is not the same as my definition of okay. This is giving how much healing? 5. But if they're below 5, then that feels like a waste of heal to me. That's what I mean. Maybe I want to wait until they're 5 or more low before I heal them. So I'm going to not play that. But I can't draw, okay, I can draw cards, okay. I have to end the round before I can draw cards. Okay, I guess I missed that earlier. I guess I missed clicking the end round button. Maybe. Now I can move. And they have moved closer, so I'm going to... Okay, I can do a chop. I'm gonna do a chop. There's only 2 enemies. It didn't let me click, but I'm guessing since there was only 2 enemies... So yeah, it changes to red once they're at a low enough level. And yes, I can. Can I rotate? Nope. So to move it, I'm just using left click to drag. And then I tried right clicking to see if I could rotate. So because I was wanting to look at, but if you hover over it, it fades out this one so you can see. So that's a good solution for occlusion of 3D objects is, and I saw a very cool one in Moss that it's also a very good way of solving the problem of occlusion when you've got a character that you're wanting to look at that's behind an object, but you can't move. You can't move the board or anything to see the information, but it may be necessary to see the information to see the character, but it may be important to be able to see the character for various reasons, and they also had a very cool pattern for that that I will share later. I hope to play Moss at some point for the stream. But when you hover over the one you're wanting to look at, if there's a character in front of it, it will make that one transparent, translucent, so that you can see the object you're trying to look at. So that's cool. Okay, I'm right-clicking. Blocked, can't enter. Blocked site. I don't understand. Oh, the wall. Open, costs 1 move point to enter. Doesn't block site. So what are move points? I can't move, though, unless I have a card to move, right? I don't think I can move unless I have a card to move. Which is different than, definitely different than D&D for sure. And other games I've played with minis. I don't hate that, but it is a different mental model. But they did explain when you bought the game that it's different. So that kind of changes your expectations a little to open your mind a little more to changes to your current mental models. Yes. I don't hate it. It adds a level of difficulty, which can be good. Yeah. Okay, so what am I doing? I'm going to attack something. Gonna chop again. Alrighty. Victory. And there's your success indicator. Yay, you've... Oh, and you'll also pay attention. They had sound effects when things were attacked. They had little numbers of how much damage was done to each thing. It would like float up from that character. Those are good feedback indicators.
Victory!
The bones of Zuten return to dust and the treasure is yours.
Yay!
Open the chest to claim your treasure. I got a legendary drop. Drag and drop the gold leaf blade onto the empty weapon slot on the character to the left. So I do have a character-ish sheet. Okay. I get a new sword. And oh, and it's telling me what I can do with it. So it's a legendary weapon, level 13. And it looks like it has elements that I can't hover over. So I want to hover over those elements to see more about them, but I guess I can't until some other point. Can I hear? Because, oh, these are major power tokens, and I don't know exactly what those power tokens mean right now. These are, I don't know the different colors, what they mean. So, but these are the cards that you get with this sword. So that's interesting that you get different cards depending on the weapon. That makes sense. Makes sense. It's interesting. And that is a higher attack value. Is that a higher attack value than what he's already got? I want to compare. Can I compare? Be nice to be able to compare the existing weapon with the current weapon. Especially like if you're, as you get higher levels, you may get a sword or a weapon or gear that's lower than the gear you currently have. And you want to weigh your options of whether or not you want that one. And if there was a way of comparing that I missed, and it's probably just that they haven't gotten to that point where it matters in this game yet, that they're just saying this is how you equip stuff right now. but I would like to be able to compare them. By equipping the Gold Leaf Blade, Borgo puts some great new cards in his deck. Or I just wait and do the tutorial and see if I learn. So, hold on. Okay. If I left click, that means I'm trying to move it, I guess. I'll hold over it. I think it thinks I'm trying to unequip it or something, maybe. I don't know if there's an... What happened to my other sword? Can I sell it? Is there a currency system in here? There is, because there's gold here. And pizza. I would very interested in knowing what the pizza's about. There's a pizza menu. Papa Manchu. Okay. Pizza is intriguing. Contains everything you need to fully enjoy. Card. Yeah, that's true. Your snacks matter. Contains everything you need to fully enjoy Card Hunter. Lucrative adventures, extra loot, figure variants. Okay, variations to your minis. That's important. 11 treasure hunt adventures. That's cool. So like adventure modules. 1 month club membership. So this is getting into how games make money, because this is a free game. And there are a lot of free games out there, but they have to have some kind of business model in place to make money. And how do they convince people to pay money for these add-ons and things? What's the benefit? What's motivating me to pay money for extra stuff? I mean, and even just, I know I can't eat pizza for like allergies and so forth. I really miss pizza. I would love to eat pizza. This is making me want pizza. But just the fact that it's something that they have taken into account from the standard, like the normalized behaviors of tabletop gamers, especially ones that play games like Dungeons and Dragons and so forth, is that pizza is a common factor. And the fact that they're using that knowledge of the target audience as an appealing, as a currency, or as it's making it more appealing, I guess, from that standpoint. And that's actually pretty clever. And so there, that's your kind of your motivations for paying money for things. I'm not going to pay any money for anything, but looks like they've added the Steam wallet on here so that you can just conveniently use the Steam wallet instead of having to set up a whole new account. That's another thing, is account creation burnout. A lot of free games, and it makes sense why they do it. They force you to make an account to play. And one thing I like about this game is that it didn't force me to make an account to play. And I know it may feel like I'm getting off topic, but I am and I'm not. They didn't force me to create an account to play this game, because if they had, at that point, I may or may not have continued playing because of account creation burnout. And this has been a real thing that has happened in e-commerce sites. There was a use case where there was a time that a few years ago, it's like 10 years ago or so, it was really, really popular for these exclusive websites, I guess, I don't know, I can't remember the names of any of them, but there were e-commerce sites that had like photos on the front page and then a create account button. You could not see any of the benefits of why you would want to create an account. You did not see any of the actual merchandise or how much money any of it costs. You had to make an account to see any of that information. And every time I came across one of those sites, and this is a common thing, and I haven't seen it very often lately, so I'm assuming that it was a major fail, because in other research it has shown that that's not a good way of doing things for getting people to join your account, spend money, is I don't even know how much anything costs, whether or not it's even in my price range, whether or not I would want to be a part of it. So why would I waste my time creating yet another account on yet another site when I don't even know if I want it? So forcing an account creation before you've even had a chance to play the game is, and there's a train coming again, and I don't think it's going to pick up on the sound. Hasn't in the past, but that is, it's annoying for me. But, when you force them to create an account and they don't even know if they want to play the game again, it can be, you're very, very potentially losing a whole lot of people that would have otherwise tried your game if you hadn't forced account creation in the beginning, because it's getting kind of out of hand how many accounts you have to create digitally these days. And so and I know a lot of people complain about how difficult it is to get a game on the Apple's platform or an app on Apple's platform. But the nice thing about the Apple platform for the user perspective is that I don't have to keep creating. Sometimes I do, but for the most part, I don't have to create an account on every single app I download. Sometimes I do, but not always. And I don't always have to set up a payment on this brand new account and give them my payment information, because I don't know how secure their site is. I don't know how often they get hacked yet. But being able to just, like the Steam wallet here, let me just, and that's a different topic of how often or whether or not Steam gets hacked. But just let me have one account in one place, because the more places your personal information is out there on the web, on the internet, the weaker the security. So easier it is for somebody to hack somewhere in the weak link to get your account information. So, and keeping track of all your passwords and all your logins and usernames is another thing which a lot of people solve by just creating stupid passwords that are easily hacked, which is another part of the problem. But the fact that they're not, back to this, the fact that they're not forcing me to create an account to play this game, and that they still haven't forced me to create an account to even purchase this stuff, because I could use my Steam wallet, and I'm using my finger to point at the screen instead of my mouse. I'm sorry, I will switch to mouse. The fact that they're letting you use the Steam wallet to purchase anything instead of forcing you to create an account and then add your payment information to their website is a very nice thing that they're doing it this way. What I'm saying. Long way around to saying that. I'm not going to buy anything, but that is kudos to them for doing it that way. And it's very clever how they've using their word uses and stuff to get things in. And I don't know what yet I can use for the pizza slices on, but I don't know what the benefit of the pizza slices is. And gold. There, 10 gold for one pizza slice, and I have 0 of each. So that's nice. You can convert your pizza to gold. Most people want to convert their gold to pizza, but okay. Joint. What's this? There's a club that you can use pizza to pay for. Okay. Maximize your loot with club rewards. This is another way that they're helping you make money on a free game. So back here when we were talking about all of these add-ons, these are reasonably, why is basic edition the most? Okay, so if you click on one, you can see what you get with it. So the AI bundle is the cheapest one, and it gets you these things. But they're putting, because they want you to pay for the biggest thing. So why is this called Basic Edition? Basic Edition feels like it would be the cheapest thing to me than these other things. But okay, but I mean, it's still clear that if I look at it and pay attention to what's in here, what I get. And then with 330 pizza slices, they're not just a delicious staple of tabletop gaming. Yeah, like I was saying earlier, it is a standard staple. You can spend them to buy extra stuff while you play Card Hunter. Item chests, Card Hunter Club memberships, treasure hunt adventures, new adventurer figures convert to in-game gold. So I guess these are some of the things you can get with pizza. So you can get a ton of pizza. Yeah. So these are some of the... So if you're wanting to create a game that has a free game, but still make money, I recommend going into existing free games that are successful, that you like how they that you like how they do their payment model because it has convinced you to pay money to do it, or it has sorely tempted you to pay money to do it. Look at their model, see how they are doing things to make money from their free game. Study that to help you figure out your own model for how you would want to make money in your game. That was the very, 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 very long way of me getting back around to saying that. So one of the reasons that you would want more pizza is for these things. And so what is the benefit of a membership? Join the Card Hunter Club and get a club reward item in every chest you open in the campaign or multiplayer. So there is a multiplayer element in here. Your club reward item will be at least as rare as the rarest item you would otherwise be guaranteed. That doesn't make sense. For example, but at least they give you an example. If you open a chest containing a guaranteed epic item, the club reward item will also be an epic item or better. So you're not losing anything, I guess, is what they're saying. You're benefiting. So it's just telling you how you're benefiting. Maximizing your loot. Okay. So there is apparently some kind of multiplayer aspect to this, but I haven't seen it yet. But I'm fine because I don't want to play multiplayer yet. I'm the kind of person who wants to get relatively competent at a game before I'm thrown in with other players. And depending on the game, I may or may not want to even be thrown in with other players, but I would at least want to be able to play with my friends, at the very least. So back to this. If you right-click on it, if you click on it regularly, it's trying to move it somewhere. But if you right-click on it, you can see all the details about it. You can see all the details of all of the skills or cards that you can do with this weapon, different types of attacks. Right-clicking on each of these items. Hovering is giving you a good amount of information, but right-clicking is zooming you in. Why would you attach it to yourself? I don't know why you would do that. So I'm looking at this fright card. Attach this card to yourself. You may not play attack cards. Duration 1. The worst forms of paralysis are those that come from within, and I don't know why I'd want to play that. Would there be a benefit to that ever? I don't know. And you can right-click on each card to see what they do if you just want to study your attacks. But I would prefer, and I'm sure there are people that do that. Sure that there are people that do that, go through and look at all their cards, but that's too much for me to remember anyway. So I'd rather just look at them as I draw them because it's the luck of the draw anyway. I have an epic weapon that is a battle axe. So whether I use my sword or my axe is dependent on what cards I draw. Anyway, I guess. Which is kind of different from D&D because we were working on luck of the draw here instead of choosing which weapon am I going to equip and use, which weapon. You're equipping them by putting them in this little character sheet here, but then it's still up to the luck of the draw on which weapon you can use and which skill you can use, which is different than Dungeons and Dragons. And again, that's okay. I don't hate it. It adds a level of interest that I don't know that I've seen anywhere else, but of course I haven't played a ton of games like this, so. But it's interesting how they've changed it. So that is a good point too. Yes, you want to follow mental models because as you can see, they're still following that mental model that we've seen so far of giving you information on what the attack power is of the card and what the card does. Range is different. Usually it gives you some kind of shield effect, but since this is a different game, you've got a different defense, which is a different card that hopefully you draw in your. Hopefully you draw. Because what if you just drew all armor? Is that possible? How does the draw work? Are you drawing one from each category? No, you're not, because I saw multiple attacks. So that's also a question. Is how are they handling the draw? Is it just random from the deck shuffled? So you may get a deck full of armor and nothing else? And not be able to move, not be able to attack? Is it up to that much luck? Or what if you got a deck full of nothing but moves and you can't attack, you can't defend, you can't heal or anything? How is the draw set up? What are the rules for the draw? Is it totally, completely random? If so, then you may have some interesting... and in that case, I wonder if that's what the discard pile comes in as. Can you discard a card to redraw? Do you have that option? I'm just thinking about the game mechanics of it. How are they making this work in the background? No, these aren't things as a player that I would necessarily need to know, unless, of course, I kind of want to know if I'm ever going to get stuck with nothing but armor or nothing but moves. Or nothing but this wimpy, a bunch of wimpy cards and frightened cards. Why would I ever play those? It provides a boost. Why? Don't know yet.
Whoa!
As you lift your prize in celebration, a terrible rumbling shakes the temple. The stones themselves seem to cry out in terror as a caustic reek fills the air.
Ambush!
Green Fang is here.
Uh-oh.
You wear Green Fang's acidic breath and use your GNU cards to avoid his armor cards. Alrighty. How does a boss fight play out? So I've got two movements here. So we've switched sides. Okay, I was expecting... That's weird. See, I was expecting for my party to be where it was before, which was on this side of the board. But now all of a sudden, the boss is here, and my party's over here. And I'm also wondering, because we were talking about clear differentiators and character types, I'm seeing that the boss has a black stand and my party has a white stand. Was that the case for the enemies earlier? Did they have black stands? I don't remember. I think they might have. And if so, then that's your differentiator of an enemy versus your players, your allies. I'm trying to remember. I think they were black, but I don't fully remember. But again, you want to have differentiators, signs, I guess, of and consistent signs of what's what. So enemies versus allies, white and black. That's a pretty standard one. I'm used to seeing red though as the enemy, but visually that's probably difficult because that's a lot of red on a board game, to have out on a game. So black and white is a very old mental model that some would say is offensive. Their colors, some would say they're offensive, dark versus light. I'm not going to get into that, but it's also something to think about is, besides just mental models, is how is your design, how are your designs affecting culture, society, responsible design. Those are things to think about in your game designs. It doesn't offend me, but it does offend a lot of people. Okay. But another thing was that I was expecting my party to be on this side because that's where I started. And now it feels weird to have them over here. But on a tabletop game of any kind, your minis are going to move around and things are going to get moved around in different situations, so I guess it's fine. It's just that since I can't move the board to see things in different ways, it just threw me off because I was looking for them over here. But now that I know that they can show up anywhere, it's not as huge of a deal. Maybe. I am wondering why she's facing that direction. Is there a limit to where they can move? Oh, so wait, so I guess they went over here to get the treasure? Is that what happened? So yeah, that makes sense that they would be over there. This is the same board that we had before, which I think it is. Shows how much I pay attention. So yeah, so then that would make sense that they moved. So never mind. Scratch all that. Okay, so I have to play. So I get 5 movement here, and I want to beware of his acidic breath and use my cards to avoid his armor cards. Can I see his armor cards? Nope. They're all surprises, except I can see his movement, so he can move those places. So maybe that's nice that you can see your enemy's movement so that you can stay out of it, like our enemies were doing earlier. I don't know if the GM would really like that in a normal D&D game, but I think that players can usually guess what the movement is anyway, unless it's legendary actions and so forth, or special traits. Okay. Make some decisions. Can't attack right now because it's too far. I can walk. He can fly there, so I may move outside of his reach. To here. I have to use, well, I have to use charge for that. So if there is a character in the next square, do 1 crushing melee damage to the character. For every square moved. Oh, kind of want to keep that one. That one's useful. And no, I didn't want to play it. Can I cancel? So here we go. So I wasn't meaning to play that card. I right-clicked on it because I thought maybe that would get rid of the play. But now I have to play it. I can't cancel, and I don't know how to cancel. So that's where error prevention comes in. Is I should be able to change my mind, but I mean, it's fair in gameplay that you have to commit at some point. But I wish that I could have had some way of canceling and putting it back, but it's done now. I should have read the whole card before I played it. Uh-oh. And I just walk right into it. That's nice. This card becomes a terrain attachment. The terrain remains on the board and affects anyone standing in it. So did I just walk into it? Let's see, its affected squares become terrain as a terrain. At the start of each round, occupant discards all armor cards and takes 3 acid damage. Dang. Did I block it? I have sworn this male hauberk in more battles I have worn in more battles than I can count, and never has it failed me. Here's one thing about typography usage. Yeah, I think they're making this italic because they want you to know that it's something they're saying versus something that's just a description. Maybe. But italics. First of all, italics are hard to read, especially at smaller sizes. Serif italics. And serif is when you have a font that has, like, you know, those little extra accents on the words, on the little letters, the little extra strokes. Those are serifs. Adding on the serif to the italics makes it even harder to read. So typography is important in your game design. It took a little longer for me to read it because of that. And I misread it at one point. So typography is important in your game design, especially if it's like a rapid moving. This is not as rapid moving, so fine, but rapid play, you definitely need the fonts to be clear and big enough so that people can read them quickly and don't use too many words, things like that. That's normal, good game design. Anyway. And I walked right into it. I should have stepped there. I was thinking of stepping there. If I had been able to cancel my card. So did I have to discard my mail? I have to discard all my mail at the beginning of my next turn? That's not cool. But each square can only have 1 terrain attachment at a time, so that's good. Guess I can hopefully walk out of it my next turn. So how bad am I? 34. Cleanse Burst. Cleanse Burst Discard terrain attachments in target square. Sweet. Heal 2, burst 1. The monks of Jolef's impossibly spotless temples hint at their true power. So it's not quote, it's just flavor text, I guess. I guess it's flavor text. Flavor text is just content that adds story to your game. Inspiration was drawing a card, okay. But I don't want to do that right now because if I end up having to discard, if I end up drawing mail and I have to discard it, that would not be fun. Okay, so I'm going to, kind of don't want to waste this yet. Well, let me see. I have to pick one square. Do I want to do that now? He's already played the card. How many times can he play that card? We're going to try it and see. Fine. So I clicked on it and then I clicked on the target square before it came up. That feels different. It feels like that's an inconsistent. I think that might be an inconsistent behavior. Because, and I could be wrong, and I can, if there's somebody watching and you've been paying attention, you can let me know in chat. But it feels like sometimes I click the target before the card comes up to this size on the screen. And then at other times, like I click the target after this comes up on the screen. And it could be my imagination. I can check the recording later, and then it would have to be a follow-up for next week. Unless it happens again. It might happen again. But I'll try to pay attention. But that goes back to consistency of interactions, behaviors. Clicking targets needs to be consistent in when it happens. Either make it before the card's fully drawn or after. Why would it be both? Was there a reason for that? Not clear at this point. Okay, so he's flying. The dragon's wings don't always appear to be able to support their weight. Don't be fooled. Okay, now I'm gonna try to give him a smackaroo. Since he's right there. But I didn't hit select before this happened. Of course, there's only one enemy out here at this point. But that hasn't always been the case. So, penetrating strike, or perforating strike. So you'll also see that there is a different card design on different types of cards. And some of these have an eye. Oh, so this means it's visible to the opponent. That's nice to know. And I like that they have tooltips over things to explain stuff. So you don't have to guess. That's very nice. And tooltips are, if you look there, when you hover, so I'm just hovering, I'm not clicking, over different aspects of the card. Like the underline tells me, I guess, that I may be able to hover over it. I don't know. There are patterns that they've put out here. This is a new card I've never played before. So that's what this means. And they make that clear by saying it's a new card. If I hover over these things, it says something more about this. So penetrating. This attack ignores armor unless that armor grants immunity against this attack. And that is I guess it's their way of keeping this card very clean. Because if you were playing this in real life with a real card, all of that information would have to be on the card. Not necessarily that would probably be in a player manual, but this information would be on the actual card, and that's actually something that you want to think about for extended reality, is that you're going to have to think more about how this would play physically, because the hovering and clicking on things to get more information isn't necessarily always something you want to do in extended reality because of resolutions. Target areas have to be even bigger than they are on mobile. It's going to be different. So you have to go back to thinking, how would this be designed for physical? However, in virtual reality, extended reality, you've got different resolution restrictions. So using a small font size, and we're going to be playing a couple of card games in VR, tabletop card games, or tabletop games with cards in them in VR. That's one of the reasons I've been doing it this way, is we've been playing some desktop games, and then we're going to switch to VR games that have cards in them in this theme, tabletop card games or tabletop RPG games with cards in them, is so that we can see how do they design the cards in the game, is in VR, in XR. Is it hard to read? Is it going to cause eye strain? This specific card design is trying to cause eye strain now, and I'm on the desktop because this italic serif font is making my eyes strain harder. There seems to be some resolution issues. Either that or I really, really need new glasses, which I do. It seems more blurry than it should be. And so it's either resolution of their assets, because these dice are definitely blurry, or I really, really need to get new glasses. So that's going to be even a bigger thing in VR, because resolutions are much, much lower in VR because you're having to spread out those pixels are in 360 space instead of all on a tiny little screen in 2D. So your pixels are getting spread out. And so things need to be bigger in VR to make them more comfortable to read. So then how does that translate into a card game with text in VR? And we're going to see a couple of examples of that over the next two sessions at least. Okay, play. So I didn't have the option to click on the enemy. Of course, there's only one enemy right now, like I said, but there is some kind of consistency thing going on there, potentially. So Dragon Claw, Green Fang, breaks Borgo with a mighty claw, and I might need to heal soon. The teeth are scary, but don't ignore the claws. They're twice as sharp and cleaned half as often. And my armor worked. Nice. How much did I take? So I have 5. Is there a heal? And that heal is 8. Inspiration lets me draw a card. I wonder if this one has, like in D&D, if you move away from an enemy, they get an opportunity attack. I'm wondering if that's something in here. I'm going to give this one inspiration. So I clicked on it, it kind of came up a little, and then I selected my target, and then it played. that's what happened with the ally selecting an ally target or a non-enemy target. Is the card comes up a little in the deck when you left click on it to select it to play. Then you select the target of what you're wanting it to play on, and then it comes up big in place, makes the play. Now we're using jaws, okay? Never try to eat anything bigger than your head. And now he needs a heal. So he got a... Draw a card, discard that card unless it is an attack card. How do you discard a card? That's what I don't know. Until you have drawn 2 attack cards or drawn 6 cards. Repeat until you have drawn 2 attack cards or drawn 6 cards. The best offense is a good offense. Makes sense. Ooh, she can teleport someone else. Teleport other. Is that an enemy or an ally? That's interesting. Power Spark. Let's see. Greater heal. He needs... Yeah, I'm going to do a heal on him. No! No, not again. And then she's gonna do... Can I move? Where's the stuff? Yeah, fine, I'll move. And he attacks. And then... Did I already heal him? That's a lot of damage, man. She is going to attack. Wonder if she can teleport the enemy. It's not clear. You may move through any square. You are not required to stop when entering any square. Move the target character 3 by 3. I wonder if you can. But then once I play it, I have to play it. I can't cancel. So this is attack 3. It's my range, okay. Wearing metal armor when facing a wizard may be more than a simple fashion blunder. Both of these will reach the enemy. Always use superior intellect to your advantage, or if that fails, electrocution's also good. That makes sense. That's good advice. They both have the same attack. I'll just shoot him. Ah! Immunity to fire, poison, electricity, and acid. And these are all electricity. That ain't good. Oh, and he moved. Also not good. I might die today. Draw a card, discard that card unless it is an attack card, and repeat until you have drawn 2 attack cards. Okay, that was first. Is he in range there? Okay, so if I hover over it, so it does give a little red highlight around the enemy if they are in range of the attack. That's nice. And it's highlighting him, my character, because I'm highlighting his cards. And there is an outline, a glowing outline around the playable cards as well. So I want to do this one because it's 8 and he didn't block it good. So he's on 17 now. And then I'm going to do this one. Okay. And then he's probably immune to that one. Oh, not immune. Nice. But I can't. Well, he can run, but that ain't helping. Which position do you want to be in to be hit? Yeah. She can move. Oh, you can move an enemy. Nice. I'm gonna move him. So it did that same thing again where it moved up and then I selected on him. But the card came up, but I haven't picked where I want him to go. I want him to get out of range of the dragon. If that's out of range, it might not be. But it's not as directly in front of anymore. And I can't do anything else, so I have to enter it around. Or I can dash and run. Oh. What's this one? Team shift is other allies move 1. Forward then, we will be right behind you. Classic henchman line. And so this is what I'm talking about. I have 2 runs here, 1 attack. I have no heals. And 2 runs. What's this? Boiling armor. Target character discards all armor cards. You think it's hot in here. Now let me show you something about hot. I can try it. Idris boils Greenfang's armor. Oh. But she can move out of it. So she will. He has 9. He's got a strong bash. I have no heals. Is he in range of that one? Yes. Oops. No valid target. So, okay, that's at least clear. So that's some kind of thing that he's not. Okay. She can move, though. Why can't I? Okay. I was trying to click it, but it wouldn't. Do anything. And then he can move here. And then he has to move. He's got no attacks. He can move. In range to do that. And now he's dead. Okay. I lived.
Victory!
With a terrible roar, Greenfang crushes onto the temple floor. The Viridian dragon's long reign of terror is ended. That was great. Gary, what are you doing? Your kids can't play Greenfang's challenge with my party.
Wrong.
If you want to play with my card hunter set, you have to start at level 1.
Oh.
Yes, Melvin. Sorry, Melvin. Yeah, see, that's one thing that I was wondering was why I was starting at a level 18. So, onward. Sorry about that. My brother says we have to start again with new characters.
And now.
Let's see. Our tale begins in Cardhuntria in the musty, dusty Orc's Head Tavern. And it's blinking, so that tells me it wants me to click on it. But so thinking about the onboarding, it's interesting that they had, usually with onboarding, they start you at level 1 and you just start playing. Well, not usually, sometimes. The good ones, I'm not saying this one's not good. This was another interesting thing. So the normal ones that I'm used to seeing that are good examples of onboarding will start you at your starting level, and then they'll just slowly teach you how to play, and you slowly learn skills, and you slowly, which is a good approach for the most part, and you learn as you progress through the story and level up, and that is a good approach. But this was an interesting approach in that it started us at a higher level so that we could see what it's like to play at a higher level, because sometimes in games it can be boring at lower levels if you don't have a lot of skills. But this is like showing us what it can be like, maybe. I'm guessing, because I haven't played lower levels to see what that's like in comparison. So we'll click on that to see.
Hark.
An old man staggers through the door, blood streaming from his side.
Uh-oh.
Help! Monsters are attacking the village. Who will save us?
Huh.
Click a tab to choose a dwarven, human, or elven warrior, then recruit one. Okay, so this is why. We were able to play with a party, but apparently you start with one character and you have to make friends. Maybe. And there's also a pricing thing involved, and it's I don't know if that's in-game currency. I'm assuming it's in-game currency. Sadly, I still don't have any in-game currency, so I definitely need free. That is the right price. So I get to choose what I want here. Dwarf, human, or elf. And how do they do their characters? Some games have racial traits that give you benefits, and others it's no racial traits that give benefits, but it's your class that gives you the benefits. So like your classes in, are you a warrior, are you a wizard, so forth. You get different benefits from those things. It depends on the game, but D&D, it's usually you've got class traits give you benefits, and race traits give you benefits. So this one, dwarven warriors are stout and fierce, capable of hanging in a fight for a long time. However, they move more slowly than any other race. So here, racial traits. That's like the smaller you are, the longer it's going to take you to get somewhere than someone that's bigger. Yeah, makes sense. Maybe. Unless speed adds agility. Depends on the game. So at high levels, they get access to cards that improve their durability. And so they start out with 16 health, so they're more hardy. And you need... And this is also a standard pattern, is you need... This is your how much XP you need to get to the next level. This is how much you have, so your progress on XP. Human warriors balance speed and toughness. They can get into a fight and sustain it. At higher levels, they get access to cards that let them plan ahead and strategize. Interesting. Oh, and you can choose what it looks like. Can't choose that one. Why did that move? Oh, this table I can move. Did I try clicking and dragging on the table? I'm using my left click and it's dragging. Right click doesn't do anything. Elven warriors are the most mobile of all warriors, but not as tough. As other races at high levels, they get access to cards that give them even more movement options. So 14 health, 12 health, so they're the least health. Human has a mid-range health. Dwarf has the most health. I am going to start with a dwarf, and hopefully I'll be able to add stuff in the future. But they can't move as much as human. But humans are boring, so I'm going to pick dwarf. And that's a great name. See what random does. How random is it? I'm going to keep clicking to see if I get the same name again. Okay. Sometimes you keep getting the same name, so I was over and over again, so I was wondering how random it is. Grog hears the call to adventure, strides over from the bar, and pledges to help the old man.
Yay!
It's time for your first adventure. Click exit to return to the map. But I want to look at this. Fine. Exit. With his last breath, the old man gasps and points towards the nearby village of Omelette.
Yeah!
And I like that it has your module here on the paper with all of the classic adventure artwork that appeals to classic D&D gamers. The kobolds are raiding the peaceful village of Omelette, slaughtering the villagers and plundering their meager possessions. Will a brave adventurer step up to send these vicious bandits packing? The peasants will surely reward anyone valiant enough to aid them stopping the raid on Omelette. Level 1. And it's a one-character adventure. And that's something that's really cool about tabletop games like D&D. Adventure modules is that they very clearly say this is for how many characters, is this for a party, is it a solo adventure, what level is it, and what's your adventure hook. This is the adventure hook that's on the main page of the adventure module and your intriguing artwork for it to get you to want to play. Venture forth. Regular adventure. Complete this for experience and bonus loot. So we will do this one adventure and then we'll start doing our Rose Thorn Blood because it's already 2. These raiders should be pretty easy for someone who's already defeated Green Fang. Okay.
Huh.
I guess starting properly will at least give me a chance to explain a few more of the rules to you. Okay, good. The streets of Omelette. The village of Omelette's peaceful existence is torn asunder by the din of battle. A kobold raiding party has descended from the hills and set about ruthlessly sacking the small community. Drawing your sword, you rush to repel the invaders. So this feels very much like a D&D module where the GM reads out the story and sets the scene and everything for you as you go. So if you're wanting to create tabletop gaming, I would totally recommend studying Dungeons & Dragons to see how they handle things right now, to see how you would translate that. And the one that we're playing next week, we'll be playing Demio next week. I think it's got a similar feel to that, only it's in VR. Okay. Battle. A new map. Hooey, these kobold raiders are in a group that shares a single deck. And they do have black bases. Okay, so that's your clear differentiator of enemy versus ally. Okay. Standard old school classic thing. And there are sound effects. I hear the sound setting the scene. This feels like we've got people screaming, horses neighing, or screaming. Sounds of battle going on. So that's also cool. Yeah. It's my turn to play. I also appreciate that they have the chat log here giving you the history of what's going on and that you also have a battle log to see what's going on. I appreciate that. That there's an automatic battle log. and chat, so I can remember. This is how you remember, okay, what's going on, what am I supposed to be doing right now? Right now I'm supposed to be fighting these thieves. I can hide. Oh. Oh, it's hide armor. Okay. Sometimes it's the simple things that are the most painful. 'Cause I'm level 1. Okay. It's not just your hopes and dreams those ogres are going to crush. Okay. All I can do right now is walk. So movement cards are visible, I guess. Click. Took me a couple times to click. I don't know if that's because of the game or because my mouse is really old. When a group plays a move card, they all move at once. Ah! But that's okay. I just let out that little ah because he got close all of a sudden. That was fast. I guess I should have taken the time since I was thinking about being able to see move cards. I should have looked to see what they could do. This one, they're both the same range. So it doesn't matter. Fine. Bludgeon. But, so I clicked on it and it came out. There's only one enemy in range. Is it just using AI intelligence to know that's the one I'm going to have to attack? We'll see. Test your enemy's defenses before you commit your main attack. It's the same whether in a duel or a war. Weak strike. But my armor worked. Eek. But I still took damage. Monsters in a group turn gray after they've attacked. And can't act again until the next round. That's nice. Okay. But I can bludgeon it. Alright. And now he ran. I can't do anything. So I have to pass. Okay. And I can't do anything. So I have to pass. When can I end the round? Okay, Gary ended the round. At the start of each round, you always draw one bonus move card. So you can choose what you draw. I accidentally hit click continue twice, but thanks to the fact that there is a chat log here, which is a saving factor because, okay, so in a lot of games, if you click on something, it's gone, and you have to dig for a log because a lot of them have logs, but they're not like readily prevalent. But this one's here. It's not in the way. It's not obtruding any of the visuals of the game. So I know that I accidentally clicked twice because I think I just have an old mouse and I need a new mouse. I think that's the problem. But I can at least go and look at the log to see what was said because I totally missed it. So I accidentally clicked twice when I read at the start of each round you always draw one bonus move card. But then the thing that I missed was because you chose dwarf, you just get a slow walk card as your default move. And now we're on then you draw 2 more cards from your deck. So you always draw your bonus move card. So if this were, so it's automatically drawing for me, I guess. Yes. So the AI is the one figuring out what cards I draw, and it's not always all the same. So at least it's not always the same type of card. That was one of my things that I wasn't sure about, was whether or not, what if your draw ended up you getting all move cards and no attack cards or something. All you can do is just run around and try to run away from the enemy each round. Could be interesting, could be comical, but also could cost you the game. But, and then the next 2 cards are random, I guess. Maybe. Doesn't matter, they both are the same card. Okay. And then that's all I have. Okay, adventure complete. So now, that was a very fast adventure. That's good for learning. The village is saved, and the remaining kobold raiders scamper off into the fields. The grateful villagers reward you handsomely. The task now remains to track these miscreants back to their lair and put a stop to the attacks. So that's a good ending of an adventure module, is that it tells you the ending of how it ended, but then it gives you the opportunity to continue the adventure with another adventure, another module, and gives you all your rewards from that adventure. So I got
Yay!
halfway to level 2. Urgrog found some loot. Open the treasure chest to claim your prize.
Woohoo!
So what I get? A pickled herring is an unusable treasure item. I have to take them, I guess. Take all. What can I do with these? It's an unusable treasure item. And an unusable treasure item. So see, this is one of the things I'm talking about. What is the value of this reward? Is it something that... What can I do with it? Can I sell it? Maybe I can just sell it for money? If so, then great. There's this little dollar sign here. They aren't very... Guessing they're not very high value. I don't know. What's the benefit of these things? Why am I getting these instead of money? Oh, he's explaining. Amber shards. They should be worth several gold pieces. Click the take all and finish button to move on. So at least he's explaining. So I've got a shop now. Head to the armory to exchange your loot for something useful.
Yay!
Sell the amber shards you found by dragging them from your collection to the blue store sheet. And that's a common interaction with older games. It's a lot of games actually do that, so it's a common interaction. Okay, this is what you can buy for 5 gold, but it's red because I don't have enough money, so that's a nice indicator that you can't afford it. Okay, sell. Ooh, for 40? So did I get 40 gold? Nice. The cards in your deck come from the items you've equipped. Yep.
Huh.
Because you don't have a weapon, your deck only has weak cards. To fix this, buy the axe by dragging it from the store into the empty weapon slot, so I can immediately equip it. Can I sell this? Good. And this will give me other weak attacks. Okay.
Yeah!
Wowzers. Equipping the axe replaced those weak cards with these powerful new cards, which are also weak.
Huh.
Mouse over slots or items to see what cards they give you. And you can right-click or press spacebar to see the cards up close. Okay, you can use spacebar as well. And there is a... Why is there a green highlight over one type of hover versus the other type of hover? What's the difference in the green? Is that... What is that difference? Is that a main hand versus offhand? Let's see. Nope, it's not main hand versus offhand. I'm wondering what the difference is in the green versus the white on the title background color. That I don't know. And we bought them out of all of their equipment, so guess we can go now.
Yay!
Okay, it's time to get back on the trail of those kobolds. Eric Grug searches the fields for tracks and finds a trail leading into the wilderness.
And now.
Let's get started on the next module, the Kobold encampment. So I don't want to. I want to stop here. Is there a way? Question. Is there a way to save? Or am I going to be forced to continue? That didn't work. Can I save? There is a... Okay, so you can adjust your volumes, which is nice. You can change your... So, okay, so this is why. Auto targets is on. I mean, I'm curious as to know what the gameplay's like with it off. Do I have to select the target every time? I kind of want to select the target every time. Because maybe I don't want to attack the one right in front of me. Because of strategy. So yeah. Pause new cards. Battle join alert. Chat audio. Okay. I guess there's a key for paid stuff. I'm guessing that's for paid stuff. And I wish it wouldn't close the entire menu whenever I get out of one of the options. I should just be able to go back to the menu. It's annoying to have to keep reopening it. So if I quit right now, can I save? Because it's saying, are you sure you want to quit? I'm assuming that it's wanting me to finish the tutorial before I can save, but I've been playing for 2 hours now. That's a long time, IRL, for somebody to spend playing a game. They should be able to quit playing the game and save and not worry about whether or not they're going to lose all their progress. Or do they have to play those 2 hours all over again the next time they get in the game? That would be a discouragement to continue playing. So this is important to know and remember and think about. Make it very clear what's going to happen. It's not saying what's going to happen. Am I going to lose all my progress? Is it going to save it? I don't know. Because it's not saying. It didn't say there was an autosave. It doesn't say, I don't remember it saying there was an autosave. You want to make those things clear so people know and they're confident in what's going to happen. Yes, I want to... Yes, I want to quit. But if I quit, what's going to happen? Am I going to go back to the main music screen? Is it going to close it all together? So I'm going to say no and just leave it. Here right now. And we're going to do our Rose Thorn mode. Okay. So, what did I like? I like the nostalgic feel. I can remember how to spell nostalgic. I like feel of the tabletop gaming. I also liked the onboarding. Put me in a battle, and I learned as doing at my own pace. The practical application instead of theory kind of thing. So this can be a pro and a con depending on the game. So you have to use your judgment and your knowledge of the target audience and knowledge of the game to decide whether or not this is a good or a bad thing. But starting them at a higher level in this case was fine because you can read your, because the pace of the game, it's not a heavy battle intensive, really quick reaction time. It's turn based, so you have the time to read the cards and learn what they do while you're playing in this case, in this type of game. So letting them play at a higher level at the very beginning was fine in this case. So letting onboarding at a higher level, player level, lets you and I keep putting things in past tense. Onboarding at a higher player level lets you see the potential and have a more exciting battle. Potential of excitement, yes. Early. Onboarding puts in a battle to learn as doing at own pace. Practical application. So now they're in present tense. I like putting things in present tense like this because it's not like the game has changed or something. This is the current state of it. That's why I like putting these things in present tense. So another thing that was good was the doesn't force a player account of any time, uses Steam wallet. And if anyone's watching, let me know some cool things as well. Chime in. Feel free to chime in if you're watching. And some things that you liked. What was a highlight? What did you like? What was what went well? So, and it's hard to, if you're not writing these things down, to remember at the end because there's a lot going on. So it's not like there were. It's not that there were. It's just that I don't remember everything right now. So this is just a quick thing. If I wanted to go into this more thoroughly, I would go watch the recording of myself playing and go back and take notes as I go. But I'm not going to do that. But that would be what I did in that case, unless I wanted to do a much more in-depth heuristic review, which I'm not going to do on every game I play every week because that's a lot of work. So we'll get some of the highlights, but we're not going to get everything because memory's finite, all that. I like the pizza currency. That's fun. There is an intriguing or a compelling pay model, like real money pay model. Or a free game. It's not forcing. It's not. A lot of games that are free, they have this kind of nagging way of getting you to try to pay money for it. This gotcha mentality. So like, this is a very, very simple, clear payment model for making money from the game. There's no, it's very clear, no guessing or gotcha. I don't even know what to call that. Gotcha. Gotcha is a Japanese term for, and you also see these in America too. They're these physical vending machines that they're capsuled toys or capsuled things, figures, whatever. There's all kinds. And you got something similar to that in America with those little egg things that we get when we're kids at the grocery store. You put in a coin and it drops one, and then you don't know what you're going to get until you open it. Then you've already paid for it, and then you can't get your money back. You just stuck with what you get. So that's what gacha is. It's a term in, I don't remember the full term of the machines, but they're like that. But they're these little capsules you get, and you get something out of them. And it may or may not be the one you wanted, but you can't get your money back. You just have to keep putting money in until you get the one you want. And you're stuck with a bunch of stuff you don't want, and you may or may not ever get the one you do want. That's how they got you. So I'll just say setup because it makes sense to me. It's just very real. It's just very clear. This is what you get. No guessing. No random stuff. Very clear. So that's nice. And they're not constantly throwing it in your face, which is also annoying with a lot of free games. Not constantly throwing real money model in your face. I had to dig for it. I actually had to dig for it. Which is nice. Because I was trying to figure out what the pizza meant. So by trying to figure out what the pizza meant, I'll add that on. By trying to figure out pizza currency, I came across it. And it wasn't hard to figure out, by the way. It's not like I had to dig a lot to find it. So I've already talked about the nostalgia. I'm sure there are a lot of other good things about it that I'm just not thinking about right now. But that's good for now. And then some Thorns, some things I didn't like. It wasn't clear. It's not current tense. It's not always clear. What target is selected. Found out later. Option in settings for auto targeting. And then another thing I didn't like was, there wasn't a lot that I didn't like. I had accidentally clicked, oh, not clear what's going to happen when I exit game, since I don't see a save option. I don't see a save option, and the little pop-up that comes up, and there is a pop-up that comes up, pop-up confirmation doesn't say what's going to happen. Is it without saving? And is there something else I didn't like? The fonts were sometimes hard to read, but I don't know if that's because my eyesight's crap or if it's because the game is blurry. Not sure. So I'm not going to put that down because I don't know. But that, if you were actually doing a Rose Thorn Bud, really, that would be like a thing that you would want to follow up on. So you would put it in here, confirm whether or not fonts and artwork is actually blurry, or if it's just my really old eyeglasses. That's the next step. So you would want to, you would put, yeah, what questions do you have? That would be one of the questions I have. Is it me or is it the game? I'm not sure at this point, and I can't find out until I go to the eye doctor or get someone else to look at it and tell me whether or not it's actually clear. So it's a question that's going to remain unanswered unless somebody makes a comment later, if you're watching it later. So then, ideally, for each thorn, you would have a bud, and so it's not always clear what target is selected. I found out later that there was an option in settings for auto-targeting that is turned on. I don't remember if I turned it off or not. Oh, yeah, I also liked that hovering over the cards shows the AoE, this area of effect, and range on the board, on the map. And I didn't like that I can't cancel or change your mind. You can't cancel a card play once you've left-clicked on it, unless it's an invalid play, at least from what I can tell. So we would want to validate that. So I would say validate that. I think I tried clicking on other cards. Try playing a card and clicking. I think I did that, and I think it didn't work, but I don't remember because I've done a lot today. So try playing a card and clicking on another card to see if you can change it. I don't think you can. I think I did that. I'm not sure, but I'll just make a note of that. So if I ever want to validate that, I can. But I think I did. So I'm just going to draw an arrow to that one because that one goes with that one. This one doesn't go with any of them, so I'm going to just add that down here at the bottom. And ideally, you have at least one bud per thorn because you want to solve the problems. How can you do that? Sometimes, though, one bud will solve multiple problems, and that's good. But you want to make sure that each thorn is covered some way. So it's not always clear what target is selected. Find out later that there is an option in the settings for auto-targeting that's turned on. It also felt inconsistent in selecting, and I never got that confirmed because it didn't happen often after. And it may have something to do with the auto-targeting. Here, let me write that as a thorn. Put it her, because it's related to this one. Seemingly, because I'm not sure, inconsistent interaction with selecting targets during a play. Some select before card and some after card activates. Goes large. Oh, when it gets bigger on the screen. Verify. So I would say the next step would be to verify whether or not that's the case. See if it has anything to do with auto-targeting being active, because it might. And so I'm wondering if auto target should be defaulted on. Should auto target be defaulted to on? Some of these things you would just want to do testing to see, is it even a big deal? Because it might not be a big deal. But I can see where if you're trying to do strategy, you wouldn't want auto target to be on. So, because it might auto target the thing that's closest to you when you're wanting to go after the healer who's way in the back, because the healer keeps healing, for example, if they have healers in this game. They have people with the ability to heal. So there's a type of healer. So, and strategy-wise, you usually want to take that one out. You want to take the buffers out because they're the ones that are making it harder for you to defeat the people that are doing the damage. Or if there's a high damage one, you might want to take that one out first. If there's not a clear healer on the stage, you want to get the high damage out first, then deal with the trash sometimes. It depends. So there's an element of strategy where you might not want to auto-target the one that's closest to you. So should auto-target be defaulted on? That is something that you would want to look into. And I would say probably with testing of some kind, play testing or keeping an eye on it, with playthrough journals, things. There are multiple ways to do testing, and Celia Holden talks about that in her book. And there are some actually some other books on gaming UX that are coming out, that are already out. Games user research is one that I will just write it down here. I think it's called Games User Research. Is another game. It's a book. It's on my wish list, but it talks all about it's multiple people in the gaming UX industry talking about their experiences with gaming user research. So their methods, how it works at their company, what they do, just them talking about their experiences with this thing. And there are several people in there talking about it in the industry, and that's on my wish list of books to read. So I don't know whether or not it's good or not because I haven't read it, but it's one of interest that you might check out if you want. And then Celia Holden came out with another book called something to do with psychology of gaming. We can look it up real quick. Celia Hodent. This one. The Psychology of Video Games. Yeah, this book. This is a new one. It's on my wish list. And that one is video games are one of the most important forms of entertainment today, although are popular forms of they're important of entertainment today. Although billions of people seem to be having fun playing them, the question still looms: could they also be bad for us? Many things have been said about the impact of video games on players in the past few decades, more specifically about their potential negative effects, while their potential positive effects have been ignored often. The video games have been accused of making players violent, isolated, dumb, or addicted, just like rock and roll and comic books before them. Video games worry parents and policymakers, but does academic research confirm these worries? That's very intriguing. So that's what this book goes into. It's not too much money. It's not a horrible amount of money, unless you want the hardcover. But it is intriguing, and it's on my wish list as well to get to read. So if you get a chance to get this book, I would also say get that one. Okay. Why did I? Oh, I was saying this is how you validate or verify. Should auto target be defaulted to 1? That brought up user research for gaming. How would you do that research? There are multiple methods that are mentioned. Play testing, playthrough sessions, actual task-based usability testing, multiple ways. So it's not clear what's going to happen when I exit games since I don't see a save option. If it autosaves, make that clear when it's autosaving. If it doesn't autosave, give the option to autosave. Give the option to save. On exit. And in the menu. And oh, that says it. If no autosave. And then add text. Add explanation of what happens when you exit without saving. Whatever that may be. Explain what happens. That's a simple matter of adding the text to the little pop-up that comes up and says, are you sure you want to exit? Because there was a little body of text, you would just add onto there what's going to happen if you exit without saving. Whether that is, it's okay because you've been auto-saving, or you're going to lose all of your progress and have to start all over from the beginning after 2 hours of play. Make that clear. And that is enough for Rose, Thorn, Bud. So then how do we translate these lessons into XR? How would we make this an XR game? Should we make it an XR game? And what would we need to keep in mind if we did? So how do we translate these lessons into XR? So let's see. So this bud makes the same point if it's regardless of whether it's in VR or in XR or a desktop or real life. You're going to be selecting your target. It's not going to auto target. There's no auto target in real life. You would be saying which target you would be designating. But on digital, just what we're dealing with here, the question would still be posed: should auto target be defaulted to on? If this were an XR game, it'd still be the same question. How would you make this an XR game? So let me hide this real quick to look at this tabletop real quick. So if this were an XR game, this, you could clearly, you know how on, they have the little, they're very common in tabletop gaming, the minis where you've got the little stand with the piece of paper in it. That's a very simple translation. The map's a very simple translation. So interacting, picking up picking up the things to move them would be something that you would want to do in XR, as opposed to having everything auto move for you. And we'll see that next week for sure when we play Damio. You'll see how that works in VR. But those things are a simple translation because they already look 3D. Those are a simple translation into the things that are going to be different is the card deck. How do we handle the card deck? How do we handle any dice that needs to be rolled? Is that going to be an auto roll, or is it going to, or are you going to roll the dice yourself? Because there's, or do you want to give them the option? Because with tabletop gaming, there are a lot of people who just really, really like playing with the dice. They like rolling the dice themselves. There's just this fun about rolling the dice and doing the math and figuring all that out versus the computer doing everything for you. They find they enjoy that part of the challenge. So would you want that to be an option would you want them to have the option in an XR experience of whether or not they roll the dice versus just do the math for me because I don't want to deal with the math? That might be an interesting option to give them, because then that would go into level of difficulty maybe. I guess that could be, and if you want to set up levels of difficulty in your flexibility of the game, and this is talking about flexibility, as one of the UX pillars is give them that option. Maybe that's a good option to have in a tabletop game with cards and dice, is a higher level of difficulty would be just letting them roll the dice as opposed to having the computer do everything for you. You'd have to test it and figure it out, because some point it's too much. It depends on, you'd have to see and test it. And I'm not saying whether to do it or not, but it'd be an intriguing thing to test and see. And as far as this map for the campaign and picking your modules, how would you do that in VR? How would you do that in XR? Would you make it a UI panel where they see the map and they just select things on the map somehow? Or would it be a map on the table with 3D minis like you have with the actual gameplay that they would select somehow? Or would it be a map on the table where you grab your mini and stick it on the place you want them to go, and then it'll change the scene for you, or it'll change the map for you at that point? I mean, there are multiple ways of doing it to interact with it. And you could test those things and see which one people enjoy more, or does it matter? Maybe it doesn't matter. There are multiple ways of doing things that are still good. that comes up to your creativity and your imagination that aren't a good interaction or a bad interaction, as long as it's easy and it's intuitive and doesn't break immersion or break the experience in any way, the delight of the experience in any way, then doesn't get in the way of them being able to do what they need to do, then give it a go. Know your basic, your best practices, but still try things, because this is a new territory. We're taking reality and enhancing it, extending. That's why it's called extended reality. We're extending out the possibilities of what we can do with reality. So, what can you do? Just make sure you don't make people sick while you do it, or traumatize them while you do it. So that's a standard translation of minis. The minis are the miniatures. So I'll just type out miniatures. Of miniatures and maps to 3D. And I think all the things I just said on Post-its. Every time, I don't even remember everything I just said, but all that stuff. And how would you roll the dice? Does the computer do it for you? The AI? Or do you let the players do it? How does that math work? If the players do it. Maybe it's just they can still roll a dice because that's the fun part, but then the math's still done by the computer. That's perfectly fine. Because I would see that being way less cumbersome than them having to roll the dice and do the math and then enter the results somehow. So you can like have a nice mix of letting them do what's here. Have a nice mix. Have a nice mix of letting them do the things they like the most about the game, which is the adventure, the dice, things like that. Here are the minis, the dice, and then what does the computer do? The AI. I don't know why I keep saying computer. The AI do for them. What the... Let's use proper English, shall we? And then what the AI does for them. Have a nice mix of that. And that's through research. To validate. And of course, always keep in mind all of the foundational UX best practices around motion sickness, how you're changing your scenes, transitioning the maps, and so forth. Keep all of that in mind as you would do XR. And I think that otherwise, since it's a tabletop game, well, you would have to think about how you... Hold on. I'll just type that here. Have to think about how the card decks, was the card decks, and was there anything else? And your character sheet, your sheets and shops and menus translate into XR. So those are gonna need different interactions than what you have on desktop. Definitely those. But this stuff, that's a pretty obvious to me. If you think differently, let me know. Kind of an obvious to me translation, because you could just have a table with your maps on it. Because that's one of the other things that we like about tabletop gaming is that setting of the table with the maps on it and all that. But then what can we extend the reality of when we get into XR that makes it even that much more delightful? And I think that is all I have for today. Thanks for watching. Please do remember to follow on Twitch, like and subscribe on YouTube. Share these with your friends who are also interested in learning UX for gaming and for XR. And I will see you next week. Thanks again.